For our next part of the program, we will hear from our key representatives from 3 prominent institutions that are related closely to the WDO. This session will be moderated by WDO Managing Director Bertrand Derome. So now we will welcome him to the stage.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm glad to be here with you today. My name is Bertrand Derome, Managing Director of the World Design Organization, and I'm privileged to be the facilitator for today's panel, but I would like first to thank Thomas for his chairing of this amazing research and education conference, for bringing us this theme of design for the unimagined that is taking us a step away, a step forward from the current spin that we've been in the past 2 years. So, and it has also been very interesting today to be able to hear from our different pillars of our organization, because for us at WDO, it's very important to hear from both our professional and corporate members, but as well, here today was the day of our educational members. They have shared their different and own perspective on design for the unimagined. But now, within this panel, we'd like to turn our lens and reflect on how to better prepare our young designers to become professional in this ever-changing and uncertain world. We want to reflect on what should the future of design education be, to quote a current initiative we are proud to be a partner of. Designing design education, a vast topic in itself. So, under the banner of Design for the Unimagined, what new models of learning do we envision for the future of design education? What working environment do we need to prepare our young professionals to jump into? Need I to remind us our 3 underlying themes today: responses in extreme times, human-centered technologies for social and environmental benefit, but most importantly now, the emergence of new learning. Clearly, this emergence is the essence of our panel discussion today, and our speakers, through their own personal lens, will help address interaction between key global challenges and design for the future, exploring roles of design education as part of this process. Preparing our young designers for their future profession without knowing in which environment they will practice is quite a challenge, but we will try to address this today. Their very own and unique perspective on this subject will come from the great presenters that we have today. We have the chance to have with us the president of Cumulus, the Global Association of Art and Design Education and Research. Also with us, the president of BEDA, the Bureau of European Design Association, as well as our 3rd panelist, the education outreach expert from the European Union Intellectual Property Office Observatory. So, without further ado, let me now formally introduce our first panelist. Mariana Amatullo, a practitioner, scholar, educator, and design strategist. She is the president of the Cumulus Association, an associate professor of strategic design and management at the Parsons School of Design. She serves as vice provost for global executive education and online strategic initiatives at the New School, New York. Previously, Mariana co-founded and led the award-winning social innovation department, Design Matters, at Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California. Mariana's research and publishing bridges the design and management fields and examines the role designers plays in advancing social innovation and organizational learning. Mariana holds a PhD in management from Case Western Reserve University, a master's in art history and museum studies at the University of Southern California, and a license in lettres from the Sorbonne University, Paris, where she also studied art history at l'École du Louvre. A native of Argentina, a child of a diplomat, Mariana grew up around the world. We are now glad to have her online with us. Mariana, please share with us your initial remarks on today's topic.
Thank you. It's lovely to join you all around the world. And Bertrand, thank you for that lovely introduction. And I'm delighted to join my colleagues for this discussion. So I'm going to start with a few remarks and examples of what I see from the very privileged vantage point and the honor I have to serve as president of Cumulus, but also to work with incredible colleagues and students from around the world as a professor of Parsons and as an author and researcher. So Cumulus is very proud to be a formal partner of WDO. And as many of you know, we are an association focused on education and research. We have 350 member universities in 63 countries these days around the world. We were founded more than 30 years ago with incredible universities out of Europe, including our Aalto University, our host university of our fantastic secretariat. And it's a powerful, really, association to serve for. As board members, I've been engaged with Cumulus for 9 years now, first as a board member, now as president for the last 2.5 years. And it really is a privilege to represent our association and learn from all of our university colleagues. And I hope many of you are joining this session. One of the important focus of this board and my presidency in the last 2.5 years has been to start developing a more student-centric association with Cumulus. And we do this through a number of things, but one has been really relaunching a competition, Cumulus Green, that looks at the SDGs, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and how the next generation of designers can address these very wicked problems. So we had in 2020 a competition that looked at circular economy, and you can see here on screen the top winners from universities, university members, really working across industrial design, products, services, and systems, but also in speculative solutions, imagining the future, like the first winner, Philoskin from Iceland. Now we are actively promoting the second edition of Cumulus Green, which is aligned with SDG 2, Nurturing Our Planet. So again, for the students in Cumulus member institutions, I recommend you go to that site and look at the opportunity to contribute. So transitioning to the topic of today, the unimagined in design, education, and research, a few remarks. We know that change is inevitable. We like to think that we can manage change, but I think it's clear that, as John Dewey, the founder of my university, the New School here in New York, once said, we really live not in a settled and finished world, but in one where our main task has to be perspective. It has to be about imagining the future. And the pandemic, as we have been seeing in the research presentations today, has increasingly sort of confirmed something that another great theorist of design and management once said, Horst Rittel, who coined with Weber the famous quote, right, of the wicked problems. He said once, that society has to operate prefactually. We do not have all of the facts to know how to go after planning and predicting the future. And COVID has really shown us that. I think globally, there was no playbook and we had all to adapt and iterate. It's of course been a pandemic that's been much more than a public health issue. It's deepened the poverty pit around the world. The statistics are pretty dire in how much it has put backwards a lot of the progress of the SDGs that the United Nations has done, an area I do a lot of research on. And so this is a call for designers and design education to really have a sense of urgency about what can be done, what we can do as a community, as educators. Learning what the problem is is the problem. We say this often. Again, another quote from Rittel. That's how we address many of our design briefs, and that's how many of our design students around the world operate. Design education and research, it's really our responsibility as educators to anticipate the future and not to do it as a future that is just imaginary or an utopia, but a future where we can have agency. And this is an area that I really firmly believe in. I had the great joy to do my research when I was a doctoral student several years ago with Dr. Dick Buchanan. And this definition of design is one I share a lot with my students and when I lecture around the world. The power design has to really be about humanity, right? About thinking about the future in a way that is both individual and collective, as we see through our disciplines. And as I was putting these remarks together for today, and that we can discuss more in the panel, I was looking at a very interesting framework that I also teach to my students, the Free Horizons framework by Bill Sharp. And I think it's important to think about what that means. And this is why my talk is about, the future in the present. It is hard to predict the future, as I've been saying, but the future is already here. And as educators, we're very aware of these paradigms, design ideas and innovations that are already seeding in our studios and in our classrooms. We have to think about the challenges of tomorrow, and I think our students are a source of a lot of inspiration for already having that mindset as designers and artists and practitioners, future practitioners and industry leaders around that future. I will conclude this with a few remarks on social innovation and that landscape of the unimagined. This is the area of research for the last 20 years. And this book, Design for Social Innovation, is a publication where there are several case studies from our member universities from Cumulus. I had the opportunity to do this work with very inspiring co-editors, Brian Boyer, Jennifer May, and Andrew Shea, and an incredible roster of international advisors. And you can see in the screen a couple of them, important WDO leaders and former leaders like Mugendi and your actual president, Srini. This book brings together case studies from around the world that were collected in a very bottom-up process. And our analysis in this book looks at how design education is looking at business models for for the future and the responsibility of design doing impact in our communities. There are many pilots, projects, startups, labs in this space, as we know, and we were very interested in understanding some of the themes that were emerging as people are sharing this work. The topic of power is an important topic we looked at. What is the power, the influence of design, the shifting gravity of design centers? We are in an area of decolonization when it comes to design. There's a lot of multiplicity of perspectives we have to honor from around the world. We also looked at the question of measurement. How do we gain credibility and adapt to the work we're doing with non-designers? And the projects, again, I want to be brief here, include work from universities like Tongji University, the work of Dean Liu and his colleagues around the agricultural sort of borders and entrepreneurship between the urban and the non-urban in China. There is work around the built environment from our university, from Cumulus Pontificia Católica de Chile, reimagining education settings. And there is work that is looking at indigenous practices and how to honor that that knowledge in the work that designers are doing as they connect with them. Some takeaways: to imagine and design the future we want, as the UN would say. We are seeing from this research, from the work in these universities and in these studio practices, that there's a lot of activity in policy, in social justice and health when it comes to design for social innovation. We're also seeing that many of these designers are trained in our universities in non-social innovation design programs, and that's an interesting trend that is evolving these days. There is a lot of work in the organizational, digital, and experiential space of design. The fourth order of design, we're designing experience and systems in organizations increasingly beyond the object and the artifact. And these projects, when they are funded and implemented, really are relatively small teams of designers working with non-designers leading them. And finally, what remains a challenge and something we have to continue advocating for as educators, in my view, is the sources of funding, so that our students, when they graduate from our universities, can lead these practices and can be really sustainable at leading these practices. So I will conclude my remarks with a quote from Peter Drucker, the great management expert that I studied a lot, and that always inspires me, because he really represents this idea of the unimagined, the future in the present. Let's not try to innovate for the future. Let's innovate for the present. Thank you very much for your attention today.
Well, thank you very much, Mariana, for setting up the table in this way. This is already inspirational to see those new ways of learning, and really looking forward to having the discussion with our three panelists. But let me right away jump to introducing our second panelist today. Isabelle Vérilhac is the Head of International Affairs and Innovation of Saint-Etienne, UNESCO City of Design. She is also President of BEDA, the Bureau of European Design Associations. Isabelle holds a Post-Diploma in Design Research, a Doctorate in Material Chemical Physics, and gives lecture in Industrial Design. She was director of the Saint-Etienne Medical Technologies Cluster from 2003 to 2007, and has worked in the design medical research and development activities. For 14 years, she has been in charge of the relations with economic stakeholders at the Cité du Design Saint-Etienne. She created and set up the Material Resources Center, the Innovation Use and Practice Lab, and the Design Creative City Lab of Cité du Design. Isabelle, thank you for being here today and to share your view on our theme.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy to be there with you. And I would like to share some information about BEDA. And for today, I have chosen to focus my presentation on the collaboration and the interdisciplinarity and the work between the student and the professional. So for today, first of all, some word about the Bureau of European Design Organization. So we are a non-profit organization founded in 1969, and we are a network of network. It means that our members are design promotion centers. It could be design center for innovation or research. And the second type of member are professional designers, trade union association for designers. So they have also members. So it means at the end that we have a lot of members of members. We are focused on Europe with 62 members from 27 countries for now, but including, for example, Turkey, because we are open also to other countries outside Europe. But our main activity is lobbying for Europe and to push design in the European policy. So our main sentence is really this: BEDA vision is for design to be embraced in Europe as a driver of growth and prosperity. So for sure, we have other activities like networking between the members. We have a BEDA forum, and especially in May, we will have our General Assembly. We hope to host all the members and the partners, and maybe WDO also in Saint-Etienne for the Biennale International Design, because since 2 years we are working as you online, and we really hope to have now physical face-to-face meeting. Oops, sorry, it works very quickly. Yeah. So as I said, our difference and our speciality through the other person around the screen is to be focused on the design policy for Europe. So we are following very closely all the Commission action, and especially the European strategy, to see how and where we could push design in order that at the end designers could be involved in the project or in the action funded by the Commission, and in order to be actor to define our future for a better future, more sustainable, with more well-being for all the people, etc. So in Europe, the main action is the next generation Europe. So as a BEDA, we have worked towards this new generation, how we could push design policy for Europe. So it's not only today. I could, as I say, it's a longer story. And for example, in September 2012, BEDA, and especially it was Deborah Downtown from DBA in UK, who was the president. We work on a design a white paper called the Design for Growth and Prosperity, and the BEDA and all the board could present this white paper to the Commission. More recently, in 2019, we have made another paper called Design for Next Generation Design Policy for Europe. And we have each time created this white paper also with our members. In 2019, it was our last face-to-face meeting before next June. It was in Helsinki, and we have made workshop with all members, with partners. I remember that Srini was present also to define what could be our BEDA design policy in order to engage design in the Europe. So we have chosen 3 axes: climate change, digitalization, and European values, because we thought that it's really important to have also special European values. So you could see here our 3 main objectives: next generation design policy for Europe, connecting design to complex challenges to answer the European and the global challenges for the world, and how we could influence and shape how design can serve. Design is really for us a tool that we could use for innovation, to change the way of life, and also to change the education, and to work with the students to engage them in this change. As I said, I just pick up some example of what we are doing in order to illustrate what is a BEDA mission. And I would like to focus, as I say, on transversal action. And then design is part, if I come back to the European strategy, there are 14 ecosystems from different sectors, health, automotive, and CCI, cultural and creative industry, are one of these ecosystems. So we are in this ecosystem. Design is with the other creative industry, so it's really interesting, music, literature, etc. But we are also working to say that design is relevant to work with the other sectors, and to the skill of design is interesting also for the other sectors. Then in the European strategy, there is a big project called Pact for Skill. And each ecosystem that I have just shown are working to create a consortium with different actors in order to create a declaration, a manifesto, what could be, what needs are the skills. So for us, it's for the CCI. So BEDA is co-leading with two other partners, the CBN and Creative Skills Europe, a group to define for the European Commission what could be the needs for the creative actors in order to answer the challenge, so to be more sustainable, to be more inclusive, etc., and to also be more under the economic aspect in order to grow, because all these professional was really affected by the COVID situation. So it's really important to have upskilling and reskilling even for the professional. So just to come back on this, it's another point that I would like to highlight, that we are working closely with Cumulus in order that to have a long life training. So Cumulus working more with the students at initial training, but it's really important that the professional, the young professional and the less young professional could continue to have upskilling and reskilling, especially to answer the new challenge and the digitalization, and to answer the Green Deal, etc. Another point that I would like to highlight with another example is the link of design with the other sectors, and especially maybe with technology and industry. BEDA is a part of another manifesto. So it's thanks to another past president, Bart Ashman, from Klink in Netherlands, who take parts of the working group. And then we have worked with very technical actors to include design in this manifesto to promote advanced material for prosperity. So it's, you could see here, we are very proud to have signed this manifesto with the Commissioner Maria Gabriel, in order to show that design is something transversal and included in the other sectors and working closely with the technology. In Europe, 2022 is the European Year of Youth. And so today it's interesting to highlight this, so to show that even for the European Commission, youth are very important, and that they are focusing to help the youth in general, because as Mariana said, youth are our creative people, and we need to help them to be present, and it's thanks to them that we could co-create the future. Another, and maybe the last initiative that I would like to put on the table is the new European Powerhouse initiative. This is an initiative launched by the President herself of the European Commission. And she said that the new European Powerhouse is the soul of the Green Deal. So it's really linked to the Green Deal and how all together, so this is the main message of this European Powerhouse initiative, that we need to work all together with designers, with artists, with engineers, and so with students, with professionals, to co-create all together the world for tomorrow. Then an example of what is this initiative doing. In 2021 and now for the second time, there is a prize. So with a special category for young people. So there are two categories, and you could win some award if you present a good project, an executive project for the first category, and for the people, it could be ideas, and then the commission promotes your project and helps you to achieve it and to realize this project. Then there are other action in this initiative, for example, a festival. But today I would like just to talk about the new European Powerhouse places of learning. So this is the last action of this initiative. It's a call for the places for learning in order to join this community, and the European Commission will help to promote the project and to connect. It's really a networking action to connect the people all together. So as Cité du Design, as we are a school, we will apply, but the network of ANDEA, which is the French network of art and design school, maybe Cumulus, all of you, and also it could be education for professionals. So it's not only education, it's also upskilling, reskilling, and transmission. And it's something I think very important for the future. In order, if we would like to work on new models of learning, it's to work together with the young people who have great ideas, and also with the professionals who have experience. And it's really thanks of this work together that we can go further and quicker to achieve the challenge for a new world and for the future. So this is the message that I would like to say today, and to push all of us to work together, to collaborate with different disciplines, with different target of people. And it's why today we are with Cumulus and EIPO to speak to this forum. So thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you so much, Isabelle, for sharing all those initiatives that clearly show how dynamic the European ecosystem is, and it will certainly inspire many people. Now, to our third but not last presenter, Kari Kivinen, as our education and outreach expert from the European Union Intellectual Property Office Observatory. He is involved in the Intellectual Property in Education Network project, which promote creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship, and responsible digital engagement among young Europeans. He has worked in international school in Finland, Luxembourg, and Belgium. He is former Secretary General of the European School System and ex-head of the Finnish-French School of Helsinki. During his professional career, he has combined his everyday work with research and further studies. He built bridges between education, research, and school system reform. Welcome, Kari, and thank you now for sharing your own perspective on our topic.
Thank you very much for your kind presentation. I'm waiting for here it comes. And thank you for inviting us to this interesting panel. I would like to set the tone to my presentation by citing Roy Amaro. we don't know what the future will bring to us, but we know that it's not prefixed. And that gives us a window of opportunity, but also the responsibility to act, because the future outcomes can be influenced by us, by our choices. And this concerns especially for designers. So I'm coming at this moment, I'm working in Alicante, Spain, in the European Union Intellectual Property Office. We deal a lot with design, with different examples here. Every second year we launch the European Design Europe Awards competition. This picture is from Eindhoven last year. And the World Design Organization president and the BEDA president are always in our jury. This year we will launch something interesting. Inspired by the TED Talks, we are launching the Design Europa Talks. And the first Design Europa Talk will be done together with the Valencia Design Capital Program. Unfortunately, we don't know yet the date because of the COVID restrictions. We deal with over 100,000 designs per year. And we had an important milestone last year. We got our 1.5 million design registered. And we do all kinds of studies which shows that the design intensive industries contribute 14.2% of employment in Europe and 16.2% of the GDP. So actually design is very important to the European economy. If we are looking for the filings per country, we can see that non-European countries are growing their interest to the European markets. For example, you can see China increasing, nearly doubling in 3 years the design applications. One of the studies we do every now and then, it's the IP perception study. And I'm happy to share with you that 97% of the Europeans believe that creators need to be rewarded for their work. This is good news for designers too. Like it was presented, I'm leading the Intellectual Property in Education project. We promote creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship, and responsible digital engagement. And we have just launched a very important project, is the frequently asked questions on copyright. In Europe, every country has a right to decide about their own copyright rules. And last summer, most of the countries have made an education exception to consider also the digital teaching environment. So if you are interested on what can you do more, please check the frequently asked questions. They are in all the languages. Last spring, we carried out, together with the Cumulus Association, a survey called Protect Your Creativity. The objective was to measure how intellectual property rights are taught in Europe. And we were quite surprised of the outcome. About half of the institutions who answered to the questionnaire told that actually they don't have any special program on intellectual property. And even the other half, nearly half of them, said that it's not obligatory. So it is possible to become a designer in Europe without having any kind of IP teaching, which is a pity from our end. We asked also what is needed and what is wished for. And we got really an inundation of answers that please provide us with online courses. And we are now working with the IP Essentials MOOC, which will be published end of the year or beginning of next year. During this process and during the last months, I have had an opportunity to meet personally a lot of design students. I've discussed with them about their future, the actual situation, their wishes and their fears. And first of all, for the design students, they feel that the distance teaching has been a misery. Yes, there are positive things in it. Knowledge can be transmitted, but the practical skills, not very well. And according to students, designers have to learn to work and interact with others. So online environments provide less networking possibilities. A second and quite a big part of the discussion or worries was the sustainable development, the climate change discussion, which has been there for the last 3 years. And students felt that there is a kind of generation gap between them and the teachers or the curricula of the institution. And students feel that they are much more involved in the sustainable development issues than the older generation. This is maybe something to think about. And in some institutions, they have created groups, support groups for climate change anxious design students. And I think that it's a very good idea. For my surprise, the artificial intelligence doesn't seem to be so scary than it seems to be to me. Students were quite convinced, the ones I've been talking with, that human approach is beating the artificial intelligence by many means. To become a designer is a long process. To see the world with the designer views, eyes, to drink the coffee in the morning and think, how can I make the coffee cup better? How can I make the coffee system better? How can I improve things? This is something the artificial intelligence cannot do. And also the attitude for aesthetics, the forms and function, services, feelings, trends, fashion, innovation, creativity, artistic expression. The students felt that the artificial intelligence is far away. Very many of students are worried about their own future. How can I make my living with the design diploma or design skills? And what will the future bring? Many of them were thinking that can I find a work where the working place is having similar values than I have about the design? And this is something quite interesting. I've been also talking with the design educators, and let's say the top issues seem to be what the students should be provided for the future is the essential knowledge about the sustainable development, circular economy, material recycling, etc. But nearly as important, social competencies, including empathy. Designers collaborate with scientists, with users, with the marketing people, with all kind of people. They are kind of in the center of communication, and they should learn to master it. Customer orientation approach, ability to think the usability and user-friendliness of the creations, strategic competencies, how to develop from creator of beautiful object to the strategic design thinker. This is the path in the design education the students should do. And of course, many of the designers work in small and medium-sized enterprises, and entrepreneurship and intellectual property competencies are something needed. Artificial intelligence can be seen also as a positive thing, deliberating from routines of parametric design, for example. Some of the future tendencies before I end. In everything there are cycles, in the fashion, in the whatever. And in the 60s, a design thinker, Viktor Papanek, created his thesis, quite refreshing, actually, about socially and ecologically responsible design of products, tools, and community infrastructures, how design affects people and environment. Some of his ideas are now coming back. And I have to say that I've read his thesis quite with interest, in spite of the fact that he's not very IP-friendly person. Importance of material knowledge. Old materials are coming back. Awareness of the new raw materials, the ecological background, how they are kind of used. Space design, which can bring solutions to everyday life problems. Food design, to find solutions from agriculture to the food distribution to the global famine. Service design, strategic design, etc. So if you are interested to hear what we are doing and follow us in the social media, we have the ideas.powered, which is our brand. We are collaborating with visual illustrators and young creators, and we always spread information about the IP. I'm happy to answer the discussion questions and participate in the debate. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Carrie. It is so interesting to hear those insight and perspective from the survey within the design community. Great insights coming out of this. We are running slightly late, but I would like to bring everyone back for our panel discussion to share thoughts and exchanges. And basically, you've presented a lot of inspiring initiatives happening right now. But maybe if we inspire ourselves from Carl's talk this morning, I'd like a two-step discussion right now to have a step back and look from where we come. What learnings can we have from our history and how our institutions, systems have worked in the past that might inspire our world community to maybe learn from the evolution that we've went through, to maybe leapfrog some of the long steps that we went through, to be able in a second step to maybe project ourselves in the future. And although we've heard it a lot today, the future is unpredictable, but maybe we can look at the different futures and the different perspective that we can take for it. So maybe looking at our institution, our past, our systems, and maybe some of the issues that they might carry. Mariana, maybe I'd start the discussion with you. Let's say, and I don't want to badmouth our education institution, but they don't always have the best reputation in being agile, in being able to evolve freely. They're sometimes qualified as bureaucratic and having a hard time adapting to the context, although that might have some qualities. So what learnings can we have from our past history, and what are maybe good example of evolution from the past, but maybe some learnings that we also want to understand to be able to design for the unimagined in a better manner for the future?
Right. Thank you. Thank you. And again, I want to congratulate my co-panelists for their perspectives and the work of their organizations, which are so complementary and, of course, partners of Cumulus as well. So for the question of institutions and change, we know that change, as I said, is inevitable. We know that institutions and educational institutions, but institutions, I would venture, period, most of our institutional structures have been designed a very long time ago. They have been designed for 19th, 20th century logics, and we are in a 21st century context, right, where the pace of change is going faster in terms of technology change, for sure, than the systems and the logics we have and the policies we have to move our institutions along. So there's an inherent tension there, and we certainly see it in our universities that we have to contend with. However, I think, I'm pretty optimistic. I've seen through the work of my colleagues in my own university, but in others I visit, a lot of agility, specifically with the pandemic. We've seen, a lot of our design faculty around the world adapt to online platforms, do things, prototype things, do research in ways that we were not comfortable thinking about before. And of course, as we've heard today, some of it has not been optimal, but we've seen that that shift out of necessity in some cases, and we've seen a lot of innovation. And I think we are only going to be reading about some of the research that's happening around the innovation that's occurred in education due to these issues. So I believe that agility, the reason I think we also have to respect that some of our universities cannot move so fast is that we have questions like accreditation. We have systems that are public and some systems that are private, and we have to operate within those confines. But I do see a lot of innovation and room for experimentation all the time around the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mariana. And I'm curious, Isabelle, to hear your perspective, since you're very involved within the European ecosystem, but also as Saint-Etienne is a UNESCO creative city of design. Curious to hear your perspective on how you've seen the different approaches to whether it's design policy and or allowing design to play a more preeminent role in our cultural, industrial, and in our societies around the world. How do you see inspiration that others could have of what is happening currently within the European ecosystem and from its history and where it comes from? Just reminding ourselves that you mentioned the new European Powerhouse. Already in the name there is new that is pushing us forward, but it's reminding us of 100 years of history within the design community. So there must be some learnings that we want to bring forward.
Yes, thank you. For sure, it's really important to capitalize on the heritage and on the past, and especially your example of UNESCO City of Design. It's a long history, and the design is present in all the forms. Carrie talk about design product, design services, design policy, design management, and to be a UNESCO City of Design, it's really to have design in all the aspects. So design in companies, design in the public sectors. So if I could the example to make the link with the professional, for example, for the companies, it's Mariana talked about agility, so it's really important. And I will add the creativity. The creativity thanks to our creative actors. And it's thanks to designers that some traditional companies with a very high knowledge on materials, on textile, on metal processes. It's thanks to this creativity that they could move, for example, to medical textile or to other new sectors, including digital or creating new services. So this is a proof of an evidence of the role of the creativity of the design to make a bridge between the past and the future. And the other example is for the collectivity, for the municipality. Design is more and more crucial to rethink how the city and the countries and the Europe and the global place could be. Now design and designers are really engaged in design policy to talk about organization. We have created at the school a master for design policy. So it's really important also to teach policy to the designer and to teach design to the politician in order to work together to have the system to need to create this change. It's not only the product, the services, it's really a system approach that we need, and to move the organization at all the scale, at the local scale for the city, the regional, the national, and the global. It's why we are all together today here.
A very interesting perspective of, yes, design policies, but also designing policies, which is a mirror figure of what the design community and the design process can bring to all professions and all fields of society. I cannot carry with us without, yes, you're an expert on the field of education on one part, but coming from an IP organization, I cannot go without asking this question. And facing uncertainties like we've faced recently, in the IP world often confronts us with the fact that IP allows us to invest into innovation and to move it forward, but at the same time, has it been someone that slowed the use of certain innovations because it was protected and we weren't able to access this when in times of change and need? So I cannot go without asking this question and putting you on the hot seat for a while. But and maybe we can learn from different approaches that we've had in the past for dealing with this challenge and duality within the IP world.
Okay. Let's put the cat on the table. We have had an interesting debate, for example, with the European University Association, who are flagging quite openly for open science. And what is our approach in EUIPO is that we should give information to students that whatever choice they make in their life, if they want to provide open source materials for everybody, that they do it, and they do it in the right way. There are common creatives and other ways of sharing things, and yet your name is mentioned and you are the father of the copyright, etc. Or if you want to think of your future and your future days and maybe possible how to turn your idea to the kind of value for yourself and your company. So I think that we are living in a kind of moment that there are several options, and what we want to give in IP in Education project is the correct information, so that people who are making choices, they know what are the consequences of their choices, that they don't regret afterwards that, oh, what I did. This is an eternal issue. I mean, I mentioned Victor Papanek, who was furiously against intellectual property rights. But I think that nowadays, what we create, we have a copyright without registering it. I mean, for example, in Europe, if I create something, I do something, and if I document it, I have a copyright for it 70 years after my death. And it doesn't cost anything. And already knowing that I'm the father of this, I have done this, is giving kind of good feeling for students. So we inform people and they can choose whatever path they want. And we think, we say also that if you want to guarantee that you will have income in the future, think about registering your idea. Not idea, but your expression or your whatever you have done.
Thank you, and you are right. Nothing better than knowledge to be able to take the right decision moving forward. So one last question for all of you now. In terms of perspective for the future, how would you like to inspire the international community, whether it's educators, whether it's professional organization, in terms of being more ready to deal with the uncertainty that we will be facing moving forward? What would be your last word of inspiration for them? Maybe some dreams and aspirations you have yourself for where we should be heading, and maybe how to help them get there, whether it's our own design community or it's our stakeholders that we want to reach out and touch around the design community around us. Who would like to jump in first? Mariana,
I'll just jump. Yeah, I'll
Please.
jump in, and I think that it is really important to think about questions of access and diversity and social justice, and who are the students that get to benefit from the opportunities in our universities around the world, the opportunities to do internships, to work with industry, and to really connect into this incredible field where we can have so much agency as a global community. But we have to make sure that we are creating those spaces for collaboration and for access in a way that's really inclusive. And I think there's work to be done on that sense of inclusivity in the field of design, period. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who will jump next? Isabelle?
Yes, so inclusion is very important for sure, but I would say that as BEDA and personally, I wish that in the future we will all together build a new form of learning because it's now we are moving from a sector to another sector, and it's really exciting. So I would like that we continue on this way in order to have a better future. So maybe breaking all the silo that we have and work really all together and with all the people, and for sure with the students at the heart, but with all of us. That is my wish.
Thank you, Isabelle. And yes, learning with the students, but learning doesn't end when we go out of school. Carrie, your perspective on, and for the future, how do you envision the future of education?
I liked very much the presentation of Karel earlier today. And there was this kind of 3 steps for successful design, but it works also with the education. And I think that we are now nearly coming to the post-COVID era. And we have all learned to use digital tools and digital communication and distance teaching things. I think that all the traditional institutions have to take a moment now to reflect their curricula, how to go on in the future. Because we have learned something we are not going to forget. And if we are not reflecting at this moment and think about the future, what are the future needs and future skills our students have, we will be kind of left out from the competition, because the online universities are coming. They are blooming at this moment. Students have noticed that why to go to the traditional university when you can get the diplomas and the skills in the online environment at the same way. And how we are reacting, how the educational institutions, the design institutions are reflecting on the future challenges and future opportunities given by the digital technologies, without forgetting their core skills on traditional materials, traditional hand skills, traditional ways of doing things. So I think that it's a moment of reflection to all of us.
Thank you very much, Carrie. And thank you all for sharing your insights, your experience, and your ambitions for design education and design in general. For us, I hope it inspired our community because it is part of our objective to be able to bring forward new practices, innovative practices within the design community, whether it's in education and professional practice. But it's also our goal to have our stakeholders around the design community, whether they're policymaker, municipality, states, to understand how to better leverage design and how to develop their own design culture within those organizations. So for us, your insights were very interesting and inspiring, and we're very much looking forward to seeing how all your initiatives will unfold in the future. We're too close to the current pandemic to understand what will be all the learnings that we'll get out of it. But for sure, we'll keep some of the good practice that we've had. It was great to have you online with us today. We definitely hope to be seeing you and continuing our work together in person, whether it's in Saint-Etienne or in other coming events. Very much looking forward to pursuing this. Thank you very much. We will now go back to Thomas Garvey for the conclusion of our Research and Education Forum. Thank you very much.
The ways we can share in the collaborative effort of education. But I think we see this as a bridge to much more and to industry and to professional practice. So I very much look forward to future collaborations with you sometime soon. So as we close today's programming and our educational and research forum, I'd like to thank all of our speakers, our presenters, and remind our audience to visit our virtual poster exhibition, which will now remain open until the close of the World Design Assembly on Thursday, February 24th. There you will see an impressive selection of visual presentations on the design for the unimagined. We also encourage you to engage with the other attendees by visiting our networking space. We hope that you found today's session to be thoughtful, thought-provoking, and we hope that you will join us again tomorrow for the International Conference, where we will hear from an impressive roster of change makers who will continue this discussion on design for the unimagined.